Hello YouTube, how's it going? So recently Jurassic World Rebirth just came out in theaters, and I'm gonna let you guys know what I thought about it right after we take a look at the trailer. Is this one another stinker like Jurassic World Dominion was, or is it a good addition to this now 32-year-old franchise? I'll let you guys know here in a sec.
Dr. Henry Loomis, this is Zora Bennett, our mission specialist.
Sorry, what mission?
This would be a medical breakthrough that could save countless lives. It comes from the largest dinosaurs on the planet.
Oh my God. Fortunately for us, all these species exist in one isolated place. He's your guy?
We're the best at moving things and people in and out of places they shouldn't be. This island was the research facility for the original Jurassic Park.
We need DNA from the three biggest dinosaurs. We put ourselves in a place we don't belong. Survival is a long shot.
Alright, so like I said, that was the look at the trailer for Jurassic World Rebirth, which is the now 7th entry into the Jurassic Park/World franchise, which is as old as I am. And I gotta say, I really liked this one. Definitely a huge step up from Dominion, which is a freaking terrible film. I really don't like that movie at all. I usually do a big franchise rewatch for franchises that I really like. I'm actually about to do that for Superman. I'm going to watch some of the Superman movies. And I just couldn't bring myself to rewatch the Jurassic Park and World films because I just knew that I would have to rewatch Dominion. And I didn't really want to do that because I watched it not even that long ago with the extended cut and I hated it. You know, it's one of those movies where it's like, oh yeah, let's bring back the original cast and bring them with Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, but then let's make the movie mostly about big grasshoppers. Yay! Anyway, but you know, it's also in my opinion better than the first Jurassic World, which is a movie that I like, but you know, it's okay. But I think this one's way better. It's still not as good as Fallen Kingdom. I really like Fallen Kingdom. I know a lot of people don't like that one, but I think it's awesome. And if you notice anything, it's that I think Colin Trevorrow is just a terrible filmmaker, and luckily Gareth Edwards is not a terrible filmmaker, and that kind of carries over into this movie. So let's get into what I liked first. Really liked the new cast. I didn't have an issue really with Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard from the previous movies, but I really like this new cast a lot. Scarlett Johansson, she's kind of here. She's sort of the lead. She's a lead. This is very much like a an ensemble film in a lot of ways. But she's very good here. She holds down the fort very well. She plays a pretty nuanced, for the kind of mercenary who she kind of has PTSD. She just wants out of the game, and that's why she decides to take this job because she's going to make a lot of money and she can finally stop being a mercenary. Jonathan Bailey, he brings in, you know, some much needed nerd energy in this. You know, he's the dino guy. He's pretty much just dropping facts from about dinosaurs every time, and every time he sees one out in the wild, he's like, "Oh crap! Oh man! Oh cool!" And you know, but he's like capable as well. He's not like out of his element too much, you know, which I appreciated. Like for example, when they got to do a rock climb, there's a rock climbing segment in the film that I won't like spoil too much or anything, but you know. He's like not good at it, but he's not like the worst ever at it. You know, he's not a complete he's not a nuisance. You know, he's not in the way, which I appreciated. Also, really great to see Mahershala Ali in a movie again. It's been too long, man, and I know that's because Blade keeps starting up and stopping and starting up and stopping, and I really just wish they would make Blade because even watching this, it really confirmed that, yeah, he should be Blade, man. Like, what's going on, Marvel? Hurry up with that. But yeah, it's good to see him in here. He doesn't have as much to do. He's kind of the boat captain. And then once they get on the mainland, he doesn't have anywhere near as much to do as he should. But I have a feeling maybe that has to do with scheduling or something like that. Because, you know, he is supposed to be making this Blade movie, but, you know, whatever. But it's still good to see him again. Hopefully he gets to be in the next one as well. Also, I really liked Manuel Garcia Rulfo, who he plays the father of this family in this movie who eventually, like, you know, intersects with the other characters, the mercenaries and the scientists who are doing their mission. He does a very good job of playing this father. He's kind of like in over his head, but he's got to protect his family. And I thought that he was pretty good. He holds the, you know, he once again is like a holds the fort character. And, you know, he does a good job with it. He's got a good back and forth with the boyfriend in the movie. I didn't write down the actor's name, unfortunately. You know, I thought that they had good back and forth, and of course the daughters are good as well. His little girl's, of course, very cute and everything, and she gets a cute dinosaur to be with her as well, which I'm sure they're going to sell loads and loads of toys with that. Also, I liked Rupert Friend in this. He's like really cartoonishly evil, but he's still pretty fun in the movie. When he's introduced, he sees a dinosaur in the city or whatever. He's like, I wish these things would just like die already. Like, ugh. And you know immediately who he is and whatever. But one thing that I really liked about this as well, considering this cast and how good of actors they are, they do get to actually speak to one another before things really like go off. You know, you actually kind of get to know each of the characters pretty well. And I was surprised when, you know, they had a scene where ScarJo's character is just talking to Jonathan Bailey's character. And, you know, they're just speaking to each other like people. I was shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, this is... what? It was refreshing, I'm not going to lie. Especially since a lot of big blockbusters these days, they seem to not really want the characters to speak to each other. Or, you know, they don't really come across as human. Or if they do speak, it's just to throw out exposition. So it was nice... to, you know, even though like sometimes it is exposition, you know, it was nice to just kind of get moments where they get to be people. That was cool. The other thing I liked about this was the dinosaurs. You know, the Mosasaurus and the Spinosaurus is in this. There's a great sequence with them, where the Spinosaurus are kind of helping the Mosasaurus in the water and stuff. That's a super fun sequence, and also really great sense of scale, and feels like a throwback, honestly, to Jaws, which just turned 50 years old, actually, which is crazy. Actually just got tickets to see it in theaters, 4DX. It's gonna be a blast. But anyway, really fun sequence, and you know, Gareth Edwards, he does such a good job with scale in this. We'll get into that in a minute. But you know, it's a really cool sequence. It's one of the earlier ones, but it's still really fun and really sets the tone for the rest of the movie and the adventure that these characters are gonna go on. We got to talk about this T-Rex raft sequence as well. I'm not going to go into too many spoilers or whatever. I think they got most of it online, actually, which is a shame, because man, that's a great sequence. Really all-timer. It's pulled from the book, and they were going to have it in the original Jurassic Park, but they cut it for time reasons and stuff like that, and just, you know, didn't really fit with the direction they were going in with the movie. But it's very nice to see it brought back here, and it rules, man. It's a really fun. You know, the T-Rex, he's like bobbing for humans, man. It's pretty dope. I liked it quite a bit. Also, I really liked the sequence with the Quetzalcoatlus. Sorry, I knew I was going to butcher that. The Quetzalcoatlus, which is this really big, giant dinosaur, flying dinosaur, basically. It's a pterosaur. Was, I think, at one point the biggest... well, I think it still is to this day the biggest flying animal to ever exist. Yeah. I thought that sequence was actually pretty nail-biting, mainly because I have a fear of heights, and they do a good job of showing how high up they are, as well as how big this thing is, and how dangerous it can be when it's like pissed off because they're messing around with its eggs. And yeah, man, that sequence was pretty crazy and really did a good job of making me go, man, this dinosaur's got some stuff. I kind of want to see this. I kind of want to see Quetzalcoatlus show up in another Jurassic movie. I think that would be pretty awesome. I feel like the big flying dinosaurs that haven't really gotten their day since like Jurassic Park 3 had a really good sequence with the pterodactyls, you know, but I feel like they got to bump up these flying dinosaurs, man, because they're pretty dope. Other thing I really dug about this was the way it was directed. Far superior to anything Colin Trevorrow did in either of his Jurassic movies. I would actually put this closer to the original Jurassic Park trilogy in tone, and that very much is due to how Gareth Edwards directs this. He really came in here and he directs the heck out of the set pieces in this movie. They're all very well staged and choreographed. Really gets you in there, you know, gets you immersed in what's going on. Like I said, I think the Mosasaurus sequence is one of my favorites in the movie. You know, he's just so good with showing scale. There's like one moment where like Scarlett Johansson is like dangling off the boat and the Mosasaurus is like underneath her, and you really see how big this thing is in comparison to her, and it's just kind of terrifying. Going off of that, he's really great at showing scale. With the Quetzalcoatlus, when it shows up, man, you really can see how big this thing is in comparison to us, and it's just like, oh man, this thing pretty scary. And he does a really good job of making this, you know, this is more in line with the original movies. Like I said, it feels more like it feels pretty close to a monster movie this time around. along with having some ties back to the original Jurassic Park films, the first 3. So, you know, I really hope he gets to make another one. Let me just say that. I think he would really, if he got to do another one where he gets to maybe grow these characters a little bit more, and maybe has a little bit of a better story, I really think he'll really knock it out of the park, and it'll be one of the best sequels to Jurassic Park, which I think is kind of a low bar, but to be honest, I like all these movies except for Dominion to varying degrees. So anyway, what I didn't like, I need to actually get in here. I forgot to put in my notes about the actual main story. The main story here is pretty nothing. They're going to the island to collect DNA from 3 of the biggest dinosaurs on land, sea, and air, so they can cure heart disease, which is a noble prospect. Obviously, you know, Rupert Friend's character is doing it for the money, and all the other characters are there for the money as well. Jonathan Bailey's there for the money and the science. But I think the story here is pretty generic, pretty boring. What makes this movie stand out is the set pieces and the dinosaur action and stuff. And the fact that I think all the characters are pretty likable for the most part, to be honest with you. So that's the first thing that I didn't really like. The story's just kind of bland. Other thing is, speaking of generic, Rupert Friend's a villain character. Way too generic. He's just mustache twirling evil guy. There's a moment when he pushes someone off of a boat, and it's like, geez, man, maybe chill out a little bit. He's just a dick. There's no way else to put it. The other thing is, and I gotta say, even though I like these characters, and I think that they balanced it pretty well for the most part, considering that they all meet up, I do think that the family storyline is forced. And I know why it's forced in here. It's because these movies, you know, Universal knows these are family movies. They're crowd pleasers. You gotta have this element in every Jurassic Park movie at this point. There always has to be, you always got to have kids in these movies to some degree. And I don't necessarily agree with that, because when I was a kid, I didn't necessarily have to have kids in the movie for me to enjoy it. But I understand where the studio's coming from. There's been kids in every single Jurassic Park movie. These movies make bank, and I don't really see why they would change that right now, unless this one like is a huge flop, which it might make less money than Dominion, but it's still gonna make a lot of money. I mean, my theater was packed, and it was like Wednesday. You know, I know it's like the holiday week and everything, but people are still gonna be seeing this. Even when Superman and Fantastic Four are out, people are gonna go see this. So, you know, they're not gonna change that anytime soon. And even though, like I said, the family story was forced, I feel like Gareth Edwards and David Cope, who's the screenwriter here, did a good job of still balancing it pretty well. They have the characters meet up soon enough to where it doesn't feel like, you know, it's annoying or anything. It doesn't feel like it's taken away or anything. The other thing is that this movie really needs more mutant dinosaurs. They've got some cool ones in here with the D-Rex, and I forget what the ones that are like a cross between pterodactyls and raptors. I forget what they're called. Mutodons. They're called mutodons. I need more of these guys. I need more mutant dinosaurs in general. I think that's a missed opportunity here. I was promised more mutant dinosaurs, and I didn't get to see these freaks too much. I want more freaks, okay? Give me the freaks. So that's the next, maybe the next one should be called Jurassic World, The Freaks or something. I don't know. You know, bring in more mutant dinosaurs in the next one, and you got me for good. Also, I feel like the ending to this feels pretty lackluster in comparison to the rest of the movie. You know, the rest of the movie, it's the set pieces, they keep ratcheting up throughout the film to the point where when they get to the last set piece, it feels like a letdown. And speaking of letdowns, the D-Rex, which is this big monstrous one, he's been showing in the trailers a lot. He's not in this movie enough at all, and I kind of understand why. But at the same time, there's a lot of buildup for it to not do anything really at all. It eats a couple people, and that's about it. You know, it had a really cool moment. I won't spoil what that moment was. It was near the end of the movie, but I was like, oh, cool. If it had just a little bit more of that, I would have been like, oh yeah, this thing's legit. I need to see more of it, to be honest with you. If they make another movie, find a way to get the D-Rex in there, I'm cool. But I just really felt like, considering how exciting all the set pieces are in this movie and how cool all the dinosaurs feel in this movie in their respective set pieces, the D-Rex, I don't know, he kind of is just lumbering around and, you know, just so happens to eat people. You know, he's kind of not super fun. And yeah, because he is the ending set piece of the movie, you know, I feel like if they gave him something to fight besides people, I think he's a lot more exciting. So maybe that's something to do in the next movie, actually give him something to bounce off of, because you know, he ain't got nothing to really do here. But other than that, you know, like I said, I really like this one. It's a huge step up from Dominion. It's not about grasshoppers, thank God. I had a lot of fun with this one, so I'm gonna have to give this one 3.5 stars out of 5. I think it's just a good time at the movies. I think people are being a little bit overly harsh with this. I think the Jurassic movies in general, the sequels in general, I think people are just a little too harsh on. You know, I understand Jurassic Park is like a perfect movie, and these sequels are kind of doing their own thing, you know? But at the end of the day, you know, this is a big family blockbuster that's fueled by set pieces instead of story and character development, which I was fine with. Sometimes I'm not, but sometimes this is exactly the type of movie that I want to see. Just really fun set pieces. I can't wait to see this in 4DX. I was going to go today, but I didn't get the chance, so I'm going to go. My mom wants to see it this weekend. She can't do 4DX, but I'm going to go like next week sometime and see it in 4DX, because I think this movie really will thrive in 4DX. Definitely, especially those set pieces and stuff, and there's a lot of water and everything. Maybe I can convince my mom to see it in 4DX. I think that'd be fun, actually. I'll see if we can get her to do it. But anyway, just rock her around. I think, like, for me, these Jurassic sequels, you know, as long as they got really fun set pieces and it gives me dino action, that's cool with me at the end of the day. And so I just appreciate that all these movies are kind of like, hey, here's different dinosaurs, here's different set pieces, have some fun. Like I said, the sequels, they're all varying in different degrees as far as quality goes. I actually think these movies are a lot better than what people tend to say they are. But anyway, that's just me. So I'll watch like another one of these for sure, especially if Gareth Edwards comes back to direct and he brings back ScarJo and Jonathan Bailey and Mahershala Ali. I would really like to see that. So anyway, that was my review for Jurassic World Rebirth. If you liked it, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll have more reviews coming out next week. I will have The Old Guard 2. I think that movie's called, the new movie on Amazon is called Heads of State. I'm going to review that as well. And I just remembered Snow White is on Disney Plus, so I'm going to watch that finally and review it. And I'll let you guys know if I think that movie's as bad as everyone's been saying it is. I have a feeling it probably is, but, you know, we'll see. So anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.